expand the program and make its contribution to assisting us as citizens of Jamaica in settling our disputes. At this time, I'm going to invite Mrs. Lilith Smith and Mr. Dowell Williams, Restorative Justice Officers from the parish of St. Anne and Portland, respectively, just to come forward and tell us some more about the restorative justice process. Could you welcome them? Thank you.
All protocols observed. Pleasant morning, everyone. Restorative Justice 2022, our 13th annual Restorative Justice Conference under the theme, Crime Prevention through Restorative Justice is everyone's business. Through the Governor General's proclamation in 2007, the Ministry of Justice observed Restorative Justice Week annually in the first week of February. The week is used as an opportunity to inform and educate the general public about restorative justice, RJ, build public support and invite community to participate and collaborate with the government in implementing this effective model of justice. Restorative Justice Week 2022 commenced on January 30th, 2022 under the theme, Crime Prevention through Restorative Justice is everyone's business.
And we could not give this overview without letting you know what restorative justice is, so that you in your communities can make the distinction from time to time and know what is a restorative case and what might be one for mediation, and etc. All right? So restorative justice is a process whereby all the parties with a stake in a particular offense come together to resolve collectively or to deal with the aftermath of the offense and its implication for the future. So this is basically saying that the parties highlighted first would come together. Who are the parties? Very important as a distinction. In restorative justice, we have three parties and not two. We have the offender, the victim, and the community. Very important. The community must be there as well to help with reintegration of the offender back into that community. Because of the aim, which I'm going to speak to now, when we sit what we aim to do with that definition, we aim to build relationships. All right? And through repairing of harm, through forgiveness, through empathy. All right? And because of the nature of that, then it's a holistic kind of intervention which aims to have peace in a sustainable way. Hence, the critical role of using restorative justice in crime prevention and making it our business. As stated earlier, restorative justice has three parties. And when we say the victim, that's the individual who has been harmed. When we say the offender, the individual who has caused the harm. And when we say the community, the place where the harm was committed. So it cannot be excluded if we are going to build relationships.
Restorative justice vision, an improved and efficient justice system through the delivery of high-quality restorative justice practices across Jamaica, rebuilding relationships and communities by fostering empathy, healing, and accountability for all citizens. 2, institutionalized and evidence-based program to reduce the demands on the justice system, and to reduce violence in communities and institutions such as schools, families, etc., just about everywhere, in order to effectively address the harm between individuals, groups, and communities.
In restorative justice, it's about, not only restorative justice, but the justice system. It's about balancing rights and responsibilities. And we are aware of the criminal justice system. Restorative justice is just a different way of doing things, adding to what exists. So when you look at the criminal justice system, you would see things, or you would note what law was broken, who broke it, how do we punish the person who would have done the harm. However, restorative justice, we are about what harm was done and to whom, what needs have arisen based on that harm, and whose obligation is it to meet those needs. It is what we call the fair process, explanation, expectation, clarity, and engagement. 3 E's.
Goals of RJ in Jamaica: it creates a culture of peace through effective processes that emphasize the values of mutual respect, dignity, care between one another in the environment of healing, reconciliation, and restoration. Empower individuals, groups, and community to respond in a positive manner to crime and wrongdoing, and to harm offenders' cause, thus creating satisfactory outcomes which enable productive relationships. Reduce criminal backlogs by diversing cases to dispute resolution process at an early stage of conflict, and to avoid escalation to violent reactions.
Also, it reduces recidivism.
Reduce recidivism by addressing underlying causes of criminal behavior and supporting the constructive reintegration of the offender into the community. Eliminate the reprisal culture by enabling individuals to have access to a dispute resolution process at an early stage of conflict, and to avoid escalation of violent reactions.
All right. At this point now,
Sir, I have been given this letter from the court. I was sent here by the judge.
all right, thank you, ma'am. All right, we will be in touch with you as soon as we have done our, go through this referral, and we'll be in touch with the court in regards to
So you're
this
going to
referral.
call me, sir?
Indeed, we will.
Okay, thank you.
That which you would have seen, I want to explain the entry to the RJ program. All right? We start with the pre-charge, and that at that point, a referral can come from self, family, community, school, church, and even a recommendation from the police. All right? So anybody can refer to restorative justice at the pre-charge. Then, if you look at the post-charge, that our pre-trial, that's just before trial in a parish court. And referral can come from the judge at that level for offenses. All right? Also, in this program, we can get cases at the post-conviction stage. That is just before sentencing. But a trial would have been done, but before the sentencing, a judge can also refer a case to the restorative justice program. And at post-sentencing, at that stage, the person can also refer themselves, as well as the Department of Correction can do the referral. All right, so there are 4 stages, and at each stage, as explained on the slide, you can see where you can be a part of the program. And that's why the team would say crime prevention through restorative justice, everybody's business, because you can make it your business by doing a referral as well. And in restorative justice, I like to say it's like a system. So you would know, like you have a computer system, you have the input, processing, and output. In restorative justice, we go through a system of quality assurance. And we start with receiving the referral, which you would have seen just now. But when we receive that referral, as you would have seen, what we do?
We conduct pre-meetings with the victim, the offender, and the community support. They have to consent to a program, the explanation of the principles, the process, the expectations, the agreement, and follow-up, explanation of the conference, attendees, and their roles. This gives the individuals an opportunity to sit together in a circle to discuss what has happened.
Then, when we would have done those strategic meetings, they are strategic because it helps with the planning for the next stage, which is our third stage. And we like to not say it's the most important, but it is our sit down. It's like where we do the work in the lab. All right? And at this stage, this is where we do our fair process. This is where you get the explanation. This is where you get the engagement. And this is where you get the expectation clarity. So we do story sharing in a dialogue. We have an open discussion with the victim, offender, and the community as well. And then our expectation clarity involves the agreement that they would come up with.
And because RJ is not only about the crime and violence that took place, but about relationship building, we monitor, we comply with the agreement, we follow up with our clients to see what has been happening. And of course, we do our follow-up with the court. We send back our referral reports, send back our reports and the agreement terms. And of course, we build a relationship by continuing to monitor our clients for 3 months.
After we would have done all our work in restorative justice, we have some expected outcomes that we aim to achieve at all times. We aim to create a safe space for offender and victim to dialogue. So we try to provide that so that the dialogue can be fruitful and they are in a setting of comfort so that they are open and we can share most, if not everything. Because at the end, we want peace in a sustainable way.
We also respond to the victim needs for answers.
Healing and safety are directly addressed at all times.
Increases victim satisfaction.
Reduces offending and prevent reoccurrence of crime. This is very important, as if we're going to work at the aftermath of an offense, it is important that through our relationship building, we do not have what we call recidivism. That meaning we have in conflict between the two same persons again. It would mean that the intervention would have failed, and we're happy to say that maybe 95% or more of the time we do not have those two persons having conflicts again. So, as stated before, the aim for peace in a sustainable way would have been realized, and the impact is there to show.
At RJ, offenders are encouraged to reflect on their actions and to apologize to the victim.
It is very important to us to reintegrate and restore offender to become productive members of the community. Very important in our process of peace in a sustainable way.
Reduces high crime rate and cost of crime, which is all desire.
And finally, reduce criminal case backlog for the courts. And this is very important. So for example, in Portland, in 2021, out of 200 agreements, we got 177 agreements from the court, which means that would indicate that 177 cases would have been removed from the court in Portland in 2021. And can you imagine the court alone doing 177 cases for 1 year? You can answer that question for yourself. I want to thank you for having us. And, remember, crime prevention through restorative justice
is
everybody's business. All right?
Thank you, Mrs. Smith and Mr. Williams, for explaining the process in a little more fulsome detail for those of us who need to have a better understanding of the program. At this time, I am going to invite Dr. Mark Thomas, Deputy Commissioner of Corrections, to bring some remarks from that department. Make him welcome, please.
Thanks, Madam Chairperson. And with all protocols observed, I greet you on behalf of the management and staff of the Department of Correctional Services. We wish you a successful conference and even greater success in expanding the reach of restorative justice. Working with Ms. Lindsay for the last year, and I must add that it's the first time seeing her in person as we, thanks to COVID. We have completed a pilot in the correctional services, and that led to us being able to develop an extensive project document that is guiding implementation as we speak. Just recently, we completed sensitization sessions with all our staff, and Monday coming, we'll start reaching the inmate population. The intent, of course, is to reach as many as possible with this most noble initiative. I can speak definitively on the matter because this is an essential component of our rehabilitation strategy within our larger crime-fighting mandate. I head the Rehabilitation and Probation Division, and I'm sure this room is well aware of what probation does. You know, across 16 offices, nearly 200 members of staff, 3,000 plus caseload. I'm sure you're well aware of what a dedicated team does. What you might be less aware in the 4 minutes I have is probably what the other side does in terms of our custodial side, in terms of rehabilitation. Our number one goal is to reduce recidivism, and we are very passionate about this. We are well aware that the fancy word, what it really means. It means one less rape, one less murder, one less case of wounding with intent, one less case of arson, and I could go on and on. And therefore, that is why we are passionate about this. And the good news is, we know how to do this. The science is very clear. Involvement in prison industries, remedial education, employment training and job assistance, vocational education, therapy, reduces your chance of reoffending from rates of 5 to 25 and higher %, depends on which study you read. So the science is very clear on this, and that guides our rehabilitation strategy. So we offer life skills, and for those who are not aware, that is teaching persons how to parent properly, how to engage in conflict resolution, etc., etc. We also include sports leisure, spiritual activities, academic training, vocational training, mentorship, and therapy, as I just mentioned. This is done across 11 correctional facilities. We have well over 3,000, almost 4,000 inmates presently. And in the, 2 minutes I have left, I could get into some more details. Welcome, Minister. Our academic areas are guided by the National Standards Curriculum and the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate Syllabus. The adults are guided by the High School Diploma Equivalency Curriculum as well as the CSEC syllabus. And then vocational training is guided by the Hartrust NSTA. We have a wide variety of offerings: remedial reading, mathematics, life skills, social studies, art and craft, music, English, and I could go on. In CSEC, a long list as well: English, mathematics, social studies, history, accounts, principles of business, principles of accounts, office administration, electronic document preparation, human and social biology, and geography. And I stress that we have to go through the entire list because persons are just generally not aware as to the magnitude of the endeavor. And it's not just offering for offering's sake. Over the last couple of years, between 62 and 69% usually pass at least one CSEC subject. It says pause here for applause. That's I was kidding, but I'll take it. So at this very moment, 100% of our juveniles are engaged in academic activities. 100% are also engaged in vocational training. Over 300 adults in the inmate population are involved in academic training, and we'll have over 100 sit CSEC exams this year. Very important to note, and what many will not know as well, is that we will soon graduate our first batch of tertiary students. It's just 4 of them. But the 4 inmates and 2 correctional officers, they are almost ready to complete their associate degree program from UCC. And I'm also pleased to report, because of their A average and how well they have done, that they have paved the way for another batch that just started this semester. So at any given moment in our correctional service, there's an inmate learning how to read and write. There's another preparing for CSEC, and another taking a college course. You see, I train them well. Now, in terms of vocational activities, the vast majority participate in vocational training, and we have just around 20 vocational options: auto mechanic, tailoring, food and nutrition, barbering, agriculture, floral arrangement, art and craft, carpentry, welding, masonry, data operations, cosmetology, plumbing, beaded jewelry, mixology. 76 inmates currently are involved in mass production, churning out over 7,000 cloth masks to aid in our fight against COVID in the population. Over 60 inmates this year alone were certified in landscaping and may qualify for what we call a rehab grant, that they could leave with a walker to start their business immediately as they walk through the door. COVID hit our agriculture program hard, but thanks to the work of the team, we can boast that for the first time we produce all of the chicken we consume for the first time in history. In fact, we are actually underproducing. We just simply don't have the staff or the space to maintain higher levels. So in the 5 minutes I have, that's where I leave it. But I'm hoping you get how it all ties in, that we want the persons in our care to leave educated, enlightened in terms of how to resolve a conflict, having a skill, and then go back to our receptive community. So please help us join together to ensure that this happens. So let me end by saying, just wishing you all the best in this most noble initiative. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for those remarks. Dr. Thomas, another of our key stakeholders in the Restorative Justice Program. At this time, I would like to recognize Honorable Xavier Main, Minister of State in the Ministry of National Security, who has just joined us, sitting in for the Honorable Horace Chang. And of course, I also would want to recognize Custos Pitkin, who has traveled all the way from St. James to be with us today. Our custodies are also some of our most fervent supporters, and they support the Ministry of Justice in all our endeavors. Thank you, Custos Pitkin and Custos Green, for being here, and of course, Honorable Custos Hugh Gentles, representative. At this time, I am going to be inviting another Energizer Bunny in the justice system, and she is Ms. Paula Llewellyn, CDQC, Director of Public Prosecutions. She will address us at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Permanent Secretary. All protocols observed. Good morning, everybody. But I must greet Custos Pitkin, and I also see Mr. Lloyd Diston, head of CMOC, that's a Crime Monitoring Oversight Committee. And you know, I have to single out these two gentlemen because I have issued telepathic invitations for them to join me in the trenches so that they can understand what prosecution, the burden that we have. And by the way, I'm not owned an Energizer bunny, but if you look closely enough, you'll see the word beast of burden on my forehead. Let me also greet Miss Carla Galotta, who is one of the activists that hold the office of the DPP, our feet to the fire. And I can say to you in that hot matter, we will be coming out with a ruling, which I recommend to Indicom, should be shared with the public, and we're trying to make sure that it's very thorough, very detailed, so that you can understand our methodology. I'm all for transparency and accountability as a beast of burden in the public service. Now, as you're all aware, the office of the DPP is a prosecuting service. Our role as prosecutors are to put up the best available evidence that is cogent, credible, reliable, relevant, and admissible in proof of our case. But also, ethically and as a matter of law, if we have a file or we have a case and according to law, we do not see a viable case, then notwithstanding the court of public opinion not only nipping at our heels, threatening to decapitate us, put us through the guillotine, we are obliged to act according to law. But what I hope I've been able to bring in my tenure is a great respect for transparency, so that when you are going to argue with me or disagree with me, you will disagree in an informed way, having read our opinion on law. And I can make myself and members of my staff available, and I do, to make sure that we inform the public in respect of issues of law and our methodology in terms of our critical analysis. And I hope we have been doing a good job of doing that. But I really would entreat you, where you see us issuing opinions to the public, please read it and discuss it with us. We have a problem with that. Now, I see that the theme for today is crime prevention through restorative justice is everybody's business. And as I reflected on this theme and the whole concept of restorative justice, which I have read about with the assistance of the research of my legal officer, we operate in an adversarial system. And there are distinct differences between the adversarial system and what the restorative justice system is all about. And I pause here because although all protocol has been observed, I think I also have to greet Minister Delroy Chuck, who is following us online, and also greet former, yes, he's the leader of the opposition, but I really greet him here as former Minister of Justice, Mr. Mark Golding, who Minister Xavier Main just said a while ago, you know, when I was looking up and researching the policy, I saw your face on it. So, you know, this is the sort of thing that you would like to have across administrations, where our ministers, our policymakers can join together and maintain policy that is good for Jamaica. And I want to thank you, Mr. Golding. I want to thank Minister Chuck. And, okay, you get some thanks to Mr. Main, although you just come. All right? But it is a wonderful thing to see as a Jamaican, and long may it continue, Mr. Golding. Thank you. Yes, the difference between the adversarial system and restorative justice. For example, crime is defined as a violation of rules or law and a harm to the state. With restorative justice, crime is seen as a harm to the victim and communities. Adversarial system, The victim is inhibited from speaking about his or her losses and needs or the trauma. They are invited only to make a statement and deal with irrelevant issues. Restorative justice, the victim is central to the process of defining the harm and how it might be repaired. Adversarial system, the offender, victim, and community remain passive and have little responsibility for resolution. Restorative justice, the offender, victim, and community are active and participate in the resolution resulting from the restorative forum. And I pause here because the fact that in the adversarial system, the offender and victim and community remain passive and have little responsibility for resolution has caused and fostered the multi-headed hydra of retaliation, revenge, jungle justice, which is what breeds more crime. And the elephant in the room, as far as we are concerned, is that you will have elements of some communities who then accommodate criminality, so that when a lot of persons are saying, what is the police doing? Where's the police? For those of you who are not in the trenches, you would not understand that you have structures in the DNA of the community that ensure that the guns, the bloody clothes, the ill-gotten gains, that there's almost like a community conspiracy to hide these things. And we have to talk about it. I find that sometimes the political class shy away from it because some of these wrongdoers are relatives of the persons who are trying to do good in their constituency. Well, I'm so happy. I'm just a humble prosecutor. So, gentlemen, I can talk about it. Okay? So, that is there. So, the restorative justice program has to be conscious, I think, of the fact of the community and what is the culture of the community. And you have to really not only reach out to the individuals, but also members of the community, the family, the families of the individuals, whether victim or accused. Because I have spoken to complainants, I have spoken to victims, I have spoken to family members, both of the accused and of the complainant. And you will find that that seat, that almost cancer, psychological cancer of wanting to have revenge and retaliate. Sometimes it does not rest with the victim or the accused. It rests with family members who feel that they must get their pound of flesh. And then voila, we have another murder coming from the original matter. So restorative justice is very important in easing that pressure cooker in the community at large. Also, in the adversarial system, the community's role is limited. In restorative justice, the community is actively involved in holding the offender accountable, supporting the victims, and ensuring the opportunities for offenders to make amends. In the adversarial system, restitution is rare. In the restorative justice system, restitution is normal. In the adversarial system, it is controlled and operated by the state and professionals who seem remote. Well, as a prosecutor, I have tried in the trenches to be less than remote. We have to be objective. We have to be clinically objective, but at the same time, we have found that in the current environment where you have this informer for dead, and I don't want to be an informer, we have to sometimes challenge and give the tough love to some of the witnesses to get them to see the light in terms of participating in the process. In the restorative justice system, it is overseen by the state, but usually driven by communities. In the adversarial system, the offender is blamed, stigmatized, and punished. In the restorative justice system, the long-term protection of the public mandates a focus on the methods of problem solving that include the reintegration of the offender into the community and preservation of his dignity. Now, as I reflected on the theme, I can recall two small cases of murder that I did in the early years when I was half the size as a prosecutor. Two cases that affected me a lot in terms of perhaps that restorative justice could have prevented the tragedies. One, a case in Montego Bay when I was on circuit, where a brother, after an argument with another brother over a scandal bag, one brother killed the other brother. And do you know who had to give the evidence? The mother of both accused, the accused and the deceased. And right there in the witness box when I was eliciting the evidence from her, she broke down. So one child is dead and the other child was convicted for manslaughter. It was very sad. And when I spoke to her, she told me that they would always get into conflicts and squabbles, but they just didn't seem to know how to work it out. And the environment did not foster conflict resolution. And then we had this issue. And another case I also did in Montego Bay, where an accused, he couldn't have been more than 20, and he was convicted for manslaughter, too, on a murder indictment, for killing his grandmother. The grandmother had her home in the bush, you know, rural Jamaica. And this young man, he didn't go to school. He lacked education. He didn't hear his grandmother. And what he would do from time to time is steal some of her food and then cook a pot or run a boat in the bush. And on this occasion, the grandmother discovered him in the bush. And his pot was on the fire, cooking his stuff. And she used a stick and threw out, everything. And he got so angry. I don't know if it's because he was hungry. And he used a knife and literally stabbed her in such a way that he severed one breast of his grandmother, who grew him when he was convicted. So I thought of those two cases, and I thought to myself that where you have this sort of discord and conflict, that perhaps restorative justice could, because this young man had had an interface with the law prior to the murder or the manslaughter involving his grandmother. So, ladies and gentlemen, restorative justice is really grounded in the understanding that crime causes harm to people and relationships and also affects the community. And as was said earlier, the three main parties of the restorative justice process are victims of the crimes, the offender community, the place where the crime is committed. What I have always believed is that the concept of restorative justice could also aid psychologically in building what I like to term an alliance of the law-abiding. There is no community in Jamaica, irrespective of its socio-economic makeup, that is not that does not have the majority of members of that community being law-abiding persons. Isn't that so, Mr. Golding, Mr. Main? You are the political people. You believe so? You need to be more positive than that, Mr. Main. Well, I know so. And that is why what the Governor General says, that there is nothing wrong with Jamaica that what is right in Jamaica cannot fix, because the majority of people in every community are law-abiding. Isn't that so, Ms. Galata? Don't you find that? That the majority are law-abiding? So it is just the minority who are not law-abiding that we have to seek to deal with in terms of prevention of crime, or if there is crime at a particular level, we can neutralize its effects by using restorative justice. And of course, once it gets to a particular level, that's where my office takes over. And without fear or favor, we are going to do our job. So I just put that out there. The Dalai Lama said that the best way to resolve any problem in the human world is for all sides to sit down and talk. When I saw this phrase, Mr. Golding and Mr. May, on behalf of Jamaica, I'll ask you gentlemen to remember that in the political class. The best way to resolve any problem in the human world is for all sides to sit down and talk. I know that Mr. Distant would agree with us. It is important that while offenders are punished, it is also critical that adequate steps are employed to ensure that offenders are afforded the necessary help to reintegrate into society. And I was heartened, Dr. Thomas, to hear what you had to say. I know about it, but it's always good to be kept up to date in respect of the efforts being made by the Corrections Authority to see to it that offenders are put in a position to want to become a member of the alliance of the law-abiding when they come back out into their community. And I share with you, I'm wrapping up now, a story. Although I am